Welcome to #Single with Jeanette
and Tracy. We are not relationship experts or sex therapists. We are two people navigating the world as single, independent feminists, having honest conversations with other singles in today's device-obsessed culture.
We hope you'll join us on this journey as we navigate the ins and outs of singledom.
And welcome to another episode of #Single with Jeanette and Tracy. This is Tracy, and I'm speaking with a friend of mine. Her name is Tonya, and she is an executive in New York City. She's originally from the Midwest. And how long have you been in New York, Tonya?
Gosh, it's been 12 years now.
12 years.
I know. Time flies when you're having fun.
It does. I think I've been here about the same, 14.
Okay. I think I'm officially a New Yorker.
Yeah,
Over
absolutely.
10. I'm a New Yorker.
I think that's an official rule.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you for being here today. I'm really excited about this.
Yes, I'm excited and frightened.
Don't be frightened. No, don't be frightened. This is we're going to have a good conversation.
Yes, definitely.
Because, these are conversations that I think people don't have that often. We're kind of stuck in our own lives.
Mm-hmm.
Or if we do have them, we're just having them with our girlfriends.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So tell me, what is your current status? Are you dating? Are you online dating? Are you against dating?
I am single dating, but not doing online dating. I think I'm one of the few people left in the world that has yet to really dive into the online dating pool. It's just not my jam. So for me, if I'm dating someone, it's people I've either met through work or through mutual friends or just out in the world, which maybe hasn't been so successful for me.
I don't know. It's how everyone used to meet each other.
Yes. I think that's the Midwestern in me that still kind of yearns for that kind of real way you connect with people in a real live environment.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah. And when you get introduced to someone, you kind of think maybe they've already been vetted by someone
yes, that's the hope.
With.
Yes, that's the hope, because I think a lot of times too we are all so busy and our lives are so crazy, so it is kind of nice when someone introduces you, because they vetted you and them, and they obviously think there's some connection. But the older you get, as your friends get married and such, that pool of people that they know they're single shrinks, so that becomes even less of a likelihood as well.
So do you find now that you are a little bit older that it has changed, like dating has changed?
Yes, I would definitely say that, because I think it's different when you're in college and you're on campus. You meet people at the bar or on campus. When you first are out of school, everyone's single, so everyone's out doing the same thing. And then as people start getting married and having children, your kind of pool of people that you hang out with, your single friends, changes, and then you have pockets of friends. So yeah, I think it is different, the dating and where you meet people and where you go, because most people are married or they're divorced, which is fine. So it is. It's definitely different dating, meeting people, and it's different. It's just difficult to make connections, I think, when you're older. Yeah, for sure.
What would it take for you to actually create an online profile?
Well, funny enough, I have online profiles that my girlfriends have created for me, like literally have picked out photos, have asked me questions and written up all the questions. So they were out there, and I just hated the idea of actually going on and responding. I was like, I'm busy. I don't want to do that. I don't want to swipe left, right. I don't want to email with you back and forth. And I would do it for a few days or a few weeks perhaps, and then I would just slowly trickle off and just and part of it, a lot of times people say, well, that's your own fault. I'm like, yeah, I just cannot make a connection with it.
Do you think it was because there's a disconnect with having this device in your hand, and it feels impersonal?
I think, for me, it definitely feels impersonal. And I think for me, I just like the connection of meeting someone and being in their space and their energy and eye contact and just gain a sense of who they are. And I think it's very difficult when you're online. And also, I am a person that actually thinks everyone lies. That sounds so bad. Yeah. But I'm like, this is not the real person. This person online, is this really who they are? Is this what they look like? Is this what they're about and what they think? Because we all can write up different things that make us sound so amazing. So that's probably why I don't trust the internet.
Yeah.
It sounds so bad.
No, we've actually... We talked about that previously on
Yes.
another episode, and where, there are a lot of times where people put a different height, which I think is a big one for men.
Yes.
A different occupation, different photos that, nowadays it's hard to tell really with, photo editing apps.
And I think for women too, I think I've also got the sense of when people see a woman in her 40s online, you don't get noticed as much. I think that's statistics or reality, but people are like, 40s and you're single and you're online. I definitely think you just don't get as much attention as well.
Yeah, it's true. People definitely change their ages.
Yes.
Yeah. Even if you put that a woman in her 40s is looking for someone her age.
Yes.
Men in their 40s aren't necessarily looking for women in their 40s.
Yes.
They're looking for 30s and 20s.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't know if that has to do with maybe men in their 40s at that point are just getting out of a marriage for 20 years.
Maybe.
Something like that. And so they're looking for
Or if they've been single and they now are thinking maybe they want a family, they are maybe perhaps looking for someone younger. But for me, even in my 40s, I haven't given up on the idea of family, of whatever family looks like, whether it's someone that comes into the relationship with a child or children, adoption, etc. But I think they just assume that there's someone younger that wants to start that.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of family, have you ever felt pressure from your family about getting married?
Not necessarily pressure. I think it's always come from a good place of just being worried about me and my well-being and wanting me to have someone as a companion or to quote unquote take care of me, which sounds a little bit old-fashioned, but yeah, I don't think the pressure of like, oh, why aren't you? I think it's like, oh, wouldn't it be great if you would get married and, have a companion, having someone to travel with and go through ups and downs of life. And especially a lot of my friends, I'm fortunate I have friends that are in really good marriages and I love them and their spouses, and it's nice to see that. And even they somewhat, not pressure, but you can tell that they're really like, oh my God, you should just get married. Why aren't you married? You'd be such a good wife. And it's like there's something that I'm doing to not do that.
Yeah. But I don't think there is. I mean,
no.
And we can't nail it down to one thing.
No.
I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why we started this podcast was to talk about, we know all of these amazing women, these like strong, independent women who would be perfect companions, if that's something that we're looking for.
Right.
Not everyone is looking to necessarily end up with a husband.
Yeah.
I think that's, I don't know if I ever want to get married again, but, you know, but I think people still have a romanticism to
Of course. So there's an innate need to want to connect with someone, to have a partnership, whatever that looks like. It's hard out there.
Yeah. So on these dates that you are going on, or your friends, did you meet them through other people or around?
Well, some I've met through the work environment, because I work in a very social field. So there are people I've met through work. That's been a little bit easier because they understand this crazy, hectic schedules of the industry that I work in. So that's actually good. And then people that I've met through other people, they also know a little bit about me and my kind of crazy schedule. So that actually helps with us being able to connect and go out. But it's been fun. Yeah, but it's hard to stay in contact because then we go on a couple dates and then you lose contact.
Why do you think you lose contact? Are you losing interest? Are they losing? It just kind of falls off. I think it can be losing interest, but also I think getting caught up in just work and things going on in your life, and sometimes you're like, oh crap, I didn't call them back, and I don't want to text all the time, and people don't call anymore. So it's like, oh, by the time you respond to a text, it's been a couple days, and then you're like, oh, I'm traveling this week. What about next week? Oh, I'm traveling that week, and then it becomes this calendar Tetris. Right, but it doesn't necessarily always feel one-sided. It's kind of a mutual. Sometimes one-sided, and to be honest, sometimes it is my fault. My fault. Well, not my fault. That's a bad term. I think I am definitely more so sometimes not being the person to follow up. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So just get busy, which, is not good. I mean, it has to go both ways. For sure. Definitely. Yeah. Yes. So one thing I was curious about, what is it when you go on a first date with these men, like what is something that you expect from them, or do you go in with expectations?
I've tried to actually be open and not go in with expectations. I think probably when I was younger, of course, like they must be this tall, they must be doing this, they must blah blah blah, and this like ridiculous list, which is just not realistic and is unachievable. Now it's not an expectation, but I think I do expect them to be kind, smart, integrity. And, I do expect a gentleman. I am the person that, yes, I'm a feminist and I'm strong and I'm independent and all that, but I want someone to open the door for me.
Yeah. And that's okay.
And I like those kind of things. Yeah. And I'm now to the point where I don't even apologize for it. It's like, that's what I want. Yeah. And that's what I like.
Yeah.
So,
and you know that about yourself.
Yes, I definitely know that about myself.
And I think maybe also that comes with a little confusion for men, maybe, because then they don't know necessarily if they should still have that role. For some men, Yes, I think for people that meet me, they're like, oh, you're in this quote-unquote executive, you're in this high-powered position and role, and you're independent, so you don't want someone to be the male counterpart of that, of being the gentleman opening the door. But I'm like, no, I am that person. Right. Well, and also coming from like the Midwest, we grew up around those. And do you feel like that affected?
Absolutely, absolutely. I am definitely clear that I like. It doesn't have to be someone from the Midwest and the South, but I just like the mannerisms and how that is. And it's funny, when I first moved to New York, I missed the idea of a gentleman walking on the outside down the street. And it was something I was trying to explain to someone. And they were like, what do you mean? I was like, well, when you're in a certain part of the country, the guys always walk on the outside. And it sounds so archaic when you say it out loud, but it's something so nice about it. And I enjoy that. And it is that kind of, that kind of strong male person that wants to be walking on the outside because they're protecting you from the streets, the cars. I think it started back when there were horses and they wanted to protect the ladies from the horses. But I like that. And I do. It's something very sweet about it. Because my dad did that, and it's probably something that's to your point, the environment that you're brought up around. And I realized when I first moved to New York, I didn't see that as much.
It is almost a dichotomy where you are this like strong, amazing, woman, high-powered, but you still like, quote unquote, a gentleman.
Yes. I think it goes both ways. I think
absolutely.
It's important that people realize that women aren't one-dimensional, men aren't one-dimensional, people in general aren't one-dimensional. So you can be strong, yet want to be protected. You can be independent, yet want a partnership. And I think that's where it gets difficult when you're in the single world. At a certain age, people think you are in one camp or the other. And you could be in many.
If there is anything that you could change about dating nowadays and how we meet people or expectations, is there anything that you feel would make it easier to meet people?
It's a really hard question because I do know people that have done the online thing and have been very successful, have met wonderful people, friends and people, lovers, etc. So I don't want to say get rid of the internet and online dating, but I do wish people would just have a conversation more.
Yeah.
Like when I go out, it's so interesting that people just don't even walk up to you to have a conversation. I think everyone is just so afraid to have a chat, like to go, hey, how you doing? What's going,
Right.
That's interesting. What are you drinking? What are you reading? Like, people just don't do that anymore because everyone's on their device. So I do wish people would just kind of maybe put the device down and have a human contact conversation.
Yeah. I think people nowadays, especially as New Yorkers, we're all kind of in our own world.
Yes.
And we don't want people to talk to us. If you're generally, it's like if someone talks to you on the subway, you give them this look like,
you're like, what do you want?
What do you do? Why are you talking to me? No one else is talking on the subway right now.
And people don't flirt anymore. I mean, I think that's a general statement, but because to your point, everyone is like, oh, why are you saying hi to me? What do you want from me? What's going on? That I've even found myself, as long as I've been here, being that person. Usually I was the person like, hey, how you doing? And now it's like, why are you saying hi to me? Or even just flirting. Someone's flirting and I'll be out somewhere with friends and a guy will talk to me and I'm like, oh, what does he want from me? I will then go, oh crap, he was flirting with me.
Yeah.
And I had just, my mindset was in a different place, so I have to check myself on that too.
It's a lost art.
It's a lost art.
People don't do it anymore.
They're flirting with swagger. Oh, that's everything.
Yeah. it doesn't happen anymore because there is that fine line of, I think men are worried that women are going to react in a negative way of don't talk to me, step away from me, who are you,
And sometimes we do.
We do, absolutely. And so I understand how that could be intimidating for men.
And when the woman lives, if you approach a man, if you're like, hey, I'm going to say hello, then it's also like, they just want to hook up. It's like, no, I'm flirting.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting that sometimes men also just go to a different place sometimes. Not all, but it can definitely go, you just wanted to.
Right. Yeah, they just think, she just wants to hook up with you right now.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I just wanted to talk to you because you might be interesting.
You might be interesting. Yeah. I think you're cute. Who knows? But it's not like, let's, take it on back to the house.
Right, exactly. I'm not like ready to hook up in the bathroom right now.
Yes.
I mean, maybe if we're at a bar really late at night.
We're grown. We are grown.
Exactly.
So perhaps maybe. But
it happens. We're grown women.
No judgment. But
exactly. No judgment.
But sometimes it can be just a conversation.
Yes. Exactly.
Yes.
Sometimes it is just a conversation, gentlemen. Is there anything else that...
I think what's interesting also about being single, it's great when people want to introduce you to other people, but what's also very frustrating is when people just always want to set you up. Oh. The setup is so, like when you go to a party and people are like, come over, especially your married friends, and you go and you're like, everyone's married, but me and this other person. Here it is. This is the setup. And then you're in this awkward, weird thing. And it's like sometimes they're nice people, but I mean, it's just awkward and uncomfortable. And then a lot of times I just stop going to some of those people's events because I know that it's going to be, or I will ask, please don't have someone there that's going to be like my date that I don't know. Yeah. Or unless if there's someone you want me to meet, great. Can I get a heads up? Versus,
heads up.
Versus it's like there's one's empty seat and here's your ta-da.
You're right next to each other.
Yes. Yeah. So that gets frustrating. So, but I love my married friends, but sometimes they do forget that it's just not that easy.
Yeah, it's not. It's not that easy.
Yes.
And I think, that's why we're here. On that note, I would like to have a word with today's voice of the patriarchy. And today, who we have is Dave. And Dave is a native New Yorker. Welcome, Dave. How are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Now, you've been listening to us talk for a little bit, and I wanted to ask you, as our resident voice of the patriarchy representing today, if anything stuck out to you in our conversation, anything that you wanted to talk about, please share.
A few things stuck out to me, and one of them was this concept of what you had said about why is this man coming up to talk to me? Like, what does he want from me? And, we were talking earlier about that. I have the same question of like, if I'm going to walk up to a woman, number one, when is it welcome? Where in the world, where a woman is it okay for me to even approach them and say hello and, hey, you want to talk or whatever? So there's that. Especially in this day and age of like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I hear a lot about like creepy men just approaching women everywhere. Mm-hmm. So there's that barrier. And then there's like what I just heard, which is even if it's in a bar, possibly, it's like, why are you talking to me?
Right. Yeah. I think it's all about maybe the environment that you're in. If you kind of read the room, I don't know. There's not a simple answer to that because humans are complicated. Mm-hmm. So it might feel natural to go up and say hello to a woman and
social media has told me that in a gym is not okay.
The old trusty social media. Yes.
Actually, if I read dating profiles, that gives me a lot of hints.
A lot of these women, because you online date, correct? Or you have?
I have, yeah.
You're not currently.
I have no dates coming up.
Okay. But you're probably still looking every night. You're opening your app.
Yeah. Every once in a while, yeah. If I'm waiting on a line or something, I'll scroll through. Also, where I live, which is outside of the city, there's a much smaller pool of women that are like in my wheelhouse. Yeah, most women say, don't approach me in the gym. I'm just there to work out. Mm-hmm. It's possible also, in the supermarket, they're like, we're just there to get shopping. We don't want to be approached. And I don't go to bars much, actually. So, most of the women that I meet are online.
Have you met any women through friends?
Through friends?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Or through work?
This woman in my networking group noticed me scrolling through a dating website, and she contacted me afterwards. Oh, I noticed you were on Tinder. Are you dating? And I'm like, yeah. So she's like, can introduce you to my friend.
Oh, nice. That's great.
And then there's the random friend who's like, oh, yeah, you have to meet my friend. I'm like, okay. No, I don't really want to.
You don't want to.
No, it's usually where I live. It's a small pool, so I'll have probably know a lot of people.
Tonya had mentioned that she's looking for a gentleman, that's something that is important to her. And I know you as a gentleman. How do the dates that you've been on, the women that you know, what kind of reaction did they get when, like, if you are trying to be extra gentlemanly?
Like opening a door, opening
things
a car
like
door,
that. Are women generally receptive to that?
I think, most women are receptive to being a gentleman and chivalry. And there's, the odd woman who's like, I don't like when men open doors for me. And so then I think that's a learning process with each person. For me, my go-to is really opening doors and being a gentleman. That's just the way I judged that I was brought up. And the modeling for me was that.
Was there anything else that stood out to you that you wanted to?
Yeah, the part that stood out to me was when you guys were talking about how I just realized that as I don't have judgments about women that are in their 40s that have never been married. To me, we're getting on with their lives, actually. They were going to college. They were starting a career. They were excelling in their career. That was their focus. So there's no judgment about that. And I do also realize, like, now that I'm older and I'm in my 40s, like, it's hard to find time to, like, that two random people's schedules to just match up to have, like, okay, a night and then a whole weekend together. Like, wow, eventually when you get to that, that's not so easy to arrange.
Yeah. Did you have any last thoughts about anything?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So my experience these days is that there's lots of women out there that are very successful. Mm-hmm. And I'm just wondering if very successful women, titans of corporations and in the executive suite, if they're willing to date men that are less successful than they are.
Oh, that's an interesting question, Tonya. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question, and people ask me that all the time. I'm like, absolutely. I like people that are passionate about what they do. And if you have passion about whatever field you're in and you have confidence in yourself, I am fine with that. I think it's also difficult for some men to date women that may be more successful. But if you are okay with that, I'm okay with it, because I want someone that's a companion that's equal to me in many different ways, and one of that doesn't have to be our jobs.
And is that like your experience, like with your girlfriends? Like, do other successful women feel the same way? I know that's a general question. I'm just curious.
It's I think it varies. To be honest, I have friends that are very clear that their counterpart must make more or must be more successful. Mm-hmm. And that's their choice. But I also, to be honest, I would say the majority, 60-40, 60% of my friends are like me. They're like, you know what, we just want someone that's great and it's passionate. And yes, people are turning the card. They realize that's not everything.
Got it.
Yeah, I think as we get older too.
Yes,
our priorities, like we want our equals, and equal doesn't necessarily have to mean job wise.
No, and they can bring other things to the table that I need in my life. So that's a welcomed thing, not something to shy away from.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you for your answer.
Well, I think that's it, unless either one of you have any other last thoughts.
No, I think this is great.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. That concludes this episode of #Single, and we will see you again next week.